If human history is a straight line, then something doesn't add up. Because scattered across the earth are remnants of knowledge, engineering, and intelligence that seem wildly out of place in the timeline we are taught. Monumental stone structures older than writing. Astronomical alignments created before telescopes. Mathematical precision that predates formal mathematics, and technologies that appear too advanced for their time. According to mainstream history, civilization began around 6,000 years ago. Before that, humans were simple hunter-gatherers, barely surviving. But the evidence tells a different story. A story of forgotten builders, lost engineers, and a civilization that may have risen and fallen long before recorded history ever began. This is not speculation born of fantasy. It is a puzzle assembled from stone, metal, astronomy, and geography. And once you see it, it becomes impossible to unsee. Let us begin where history itself breaks down. Long before the pyramids of Egypt, long before Mesopotamia, there was Göbekli Tepe. Discovered in modern-day Turkey, Göbekli Tepe is over 11,000 years old, dating back to a time when humans were supposedly incapable of organized construction. Yet what stands there defies that assumption completely. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing over 20 tons, carved with intricate reliefs of animals and abstract symbols, arranged in precise circular formations, aligned with celestial patterns. This site was not built by nomads. It required planning, engineering, symbolism, and a shared belief system strong enough to mobilize large groups of people. Most unsettling of all, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried, covered with tons of earth as if someone wanted it hidden, preserved, or erased. Why would a primitive society bury its greatest achievement? Unless it wasn't primitive at all. Unless it was the remnant of something older, something already fading. And Göbekli Tepe is not alone. Across the globe, ancient stoneworks appear that should not exist according to conventional timelines. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid stands as a mathematical anomaly. Its dimensions encode advanced knowledge of geometry, Earth's circumference, and even astronomical constants. The stones are cut with precision measured in fractions of a millimeter. Some blocks weigh more than modern cranes can safely lift. No iron tools, no advanced machinery, no written records explaining how it was done. Yet it stands, perfectly aligned to true north, resistant to time itself. Even more curious, later Egyptian dynasties could not replicate this level of craftsmanship, which raises a disturbing question. Did Egyptian civilization inherit knowledge from an earlier source? In South America, the mystery deepens. At sites like Sacsayhuaman and Puma Punku, massive stone blocks are cut and fitted together with surgical precision. The stones interlock so tightly that even a razor blade cannot fit between them. Some blocks weigh over 100 tons. They were quarried miles away, transported across mountains, and placed with accuracy modern engineers struggle to explain. And yet, these civilizations are said to have lacked the wheel, or advanced tools, or metal capable of such precision. The contradiction is glaring. Then there is the matter of global similarity. Why do ancient cultures separated by oceans and millennia share the same architectural principles? Polygonal stonework, monumental platforms, astronomical alignments, sacred geometry. From Egypt to Peru, from Cambodia to Easter Island, the same ideas appear again and again, as if knowledge was once shared across the world, or inherited from a common source, and then lost. Submerged beneath the oceans lie further clues. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument rests underwater. Massive stone terraces, staircases, and platforms, carved with sharp angles and flat surfaces. Natural formation, some say. But geology alone cannot explain the symmetry, nor the steps, nor the straight edges, nor the scale. Similar submerged structures exist off the coasts of India, Cuba, and the Mediterranean. Entire cities, swallowed by rising seas. If sea levels rose dramatically at the end of the last ice age, as science confirms, then civilizations that existed before that time would now lie underwater, invisible to history, erased. And then there are the artifacts, objects that simply should not exist. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device capable of predicting eclipses and planetary positions with astonishing accuracy. It uses complex gear systems that would not reappear for over 1,000 years. It was not an accident. It was not a toy. It was a machine built by a mind that understood the cosmos. Elsewhere, ancient maps show coastlines with impossible accuracy. The Piri-Reis map depicts Antarctica without ice, something not officially discovered until centuries later. To map it that way, someone had to see it. Ice-free. Which suggests knowledge passed down from a time before the last ice age. Astronomy provides yet another clue. Ancient structures across the world are aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and stellar events. Göbekli Tepe aligns with specific constellations. Stonehenge tracks solar cycles. The pyramids mirror Orion's belt. This is not coincidence. It requires long-term observation of the sky, precise mathematics, and generational knowledge. Why would primitive societies invest such effort in celestial alignment? Unless astronomy was central to their survival or memory. Some researchers believe these sites are not just monuments, but messages. Stone records left behind by a civilization that knew catastrophe was coming. Flood myths appear across every culture on Earth, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the Bible, from Hindu texts to Native American legends. Different names, same story. A great flood, a collapse of the world, a reset of humanity. Myth, some say, but myths often preserve truth, when written records are lost. If an advanced civilization existed before recorded history and was destroyed by natural catastrophe, rising seas, earthquakes, climate collapse, then what remains would be fragments, stone, metal, ruins, and silence. The further we look, the clearer the pattern becomes. Human history does not move in a straight line. It moves in cycles. Rise, peak, collapse, forgetting. And we may not be the first to walk this path. What if advanced knowledge existed long before us and was wiped away? What if we are rebuilding from the ashes of a forgotten world? And what if the evidence has been in front of us all along, hidden in plain sight, buried beneath time? If a lost advanced civilization existed before recorded history, then its knowledge would not disappear evenly. Some technologies would vanish entirely. Others would survive in fragments, misunderstood, ritualized, or mythologized. And that is exactly what we see. Take ancient metallurgy. Across multiple ancient sites, researchers have found metalwork that appears far ahead of its supposed era. In India, iron pillars over 1,600 years old remain virtually rust-free, despite exposure to the elements. Modern metallurgy only recently began to understand why. In South America, metal alloys were created with exact chemical ratios that require temperature control and material knowledge beyond what primitive furnaces should allow. Some ancient artifacts show evidence of rapid cooling, precise annealing, and structural hardening, techniques thought to be modern inventions. Even more puzzling are drill marks. In Egypt, granite vases and sarcophagi display circular drill marks that indicate speeds and pressures comparable to modern machinery. Granite is one of the hardest stones on Earth. To cut it with such smoothness and consistency requires advanced tools, yet no such tools are recorded or preserved. The explanation is often brushed aside. Lost techniques, experimental tools, coincidence. But the sheer number of examples makes coincidence statistically impossible. Then there is the question of energy. Some ancient structures appear designed not just for ritual, but for resonance. At the Great Pyramid, acoustic experiments show that specific chambers amplify sound at precise frequencies. Granite, used heavily inside the pyramid, has piezoelectric properties, meaning it can generate electrical charge when vibrated. Why would ancient builders choose such materials, unless they understood their properties? In Peru, the underground chambers at Chavín de Huántar manipulate sound in ways that alter perception and induce disorientation. Channels carved into stone guide airflow and water, producing low-frequency vibrations. These are not accidental features. They are engineered. Even ancient myths hint at lost energy systems, stories of glowing stones, flying vehicles, weapons that sound disturbingly technological. Modern readers dismiss these as metaphor, but what if they are memory, encoded in story rather than science? Then there is precision. At Puma Punku, stone blocks are cut with angles so exact they appear machine-made. Some feature drilled holes that are perfectly cylindrical. Others are shaped in modular patterns, suggesting mass production. This is not primitive craftsmanship. This is industrial thinking. Yet there is no industrial debris, no slag piles, no broken machinery, no transitional stages, which implies something unsettling. The technology may not have been widespread. It may have been controlled, centralized, limited to elites or specialists, and when catastrophe struck, it vanished. Astronomy strengthens this theory. Ancient cultures across the globe recorded the precession of the equinoxes, a slow wobble of Earth's axis that takes roughly 26,000 years to complete. To observe this, one must record stellar positions across many centuries. This requires continuity of knowledge far beyond a single lifetime. Yet ancient monuments encode this cycle with alarming precision. Why? Because precession determines long-term climate shifts, ice ages, sea level rise, flood cycles. A civilization that understood precession would understand catastrophe, and might try to warn the future. Some believe megalithic sites are not temples, but markers, time capsules, stone warnings left behind by a civilization that knew it would not survive. If so, the message is grim. Knowledge does not save civilizations. It only delays collapse. The evidence suggests that the end of the last ice age was catastrophic. Sea levels rose over 120 meters. Coastlines vanished. Climate patterns shifted violently. If advanced societies existed along ancient coastlines, as most civilizations do, they would have been erased, their cities drowned, their records lost, their descendants reduced to survivors, struggling to remember. Over time, fragments of knowledge would become myths. Gods would replace engineers. Magic would replace science. Ritual would replace understanding. And eventually, history would restart. This could explain why early civilizations appear suddenly, why agriculture, architecture, and astronomy emerge almost simultaneously in multiple regions. Not invented from nothing, but rediscovered. Recovered from ruins. Copied imperfectly from memory. The so-called Neolithic Revolution may not have been a beginning. It may have been a reboot. And that changes everything. Because if humanity has already reached advanced heights once before, then collapse is not theoretical. It is proven. In our modern world, technologically complex, environmentally fragile, global Hindi, interconnected, begins to look uncomfortably familiar. We like to believe we are the pinnacle, but history suggests otherwise. The past is not primitive. It is buried. And the deeper we dig, the more it reveals. This is not about rewriting history. It is about expanding it, accepting that human capability is older, deeper, and more cyclical than we imagined. That progress is not guaranteed, and that civilization, no matter how advanced, is only ever one catastrophe away from becoming legend. If the idea of a lost, advanced civilization feels controversial, it's not because the evidence is weak. It's because the implications are enormous. To accept it would mean rewriting the foundation of human history, and institutions rarely welcome that. Modern archaeology is built on linear progress. Stone tools lead to farming.
Farming leads to cities. Cities lead to technology. But the physical record does not always follow this script. Advanced structures appear without developmental predecessors. Sophisticated techniques emerge fully formed, and then disappear. This creates what researchers quietly call out-of-sequence anomalies. Artifacts that do not belong where they are found. Tools that appear too refined for their supposed era. Maps that show knowledge no one should have possessed. Rather than investigate these deeply, they are often sidelined, labeled anomalies, or excluded from textbooks, not out of malice, but inertia. Once a narrative is established, evidence that contradicts it becomes inconvenient. And yet, the Earth does not care about narratives. It preserves what survives. One of the strongest indicators of lost civilization is standardization. In ancient societies across the world, we find standardized weights, measurements, and architectural proportions. This requires centralized knowledge. Training systems, shared mathematical understanding. The Indus Valley civilization used uniform brick ratios across cities hundreds of kilometers apart. Egyptian builders applied consistent geometry over generations. Megalithic builders across continents used similar construction principles despite having no known contact. Standardization does not emerge randomly. It is taught, which implies institutions older than we can document. Then there is the matter of absence. If early humans slowly developed these technologies, we should find transitional stages, crude prototypes, failed experiments, gradual improvement. But instead, we find sudden brilliance. Like the Antikythera mechanism, there is nothing like it before, and nothing like it after. This suggests inheritance, not invention. Knowledge passed down from a previous age, partially understood, eventually lost. Mythology may preserve echoes of this process. Ancient texts speak of golden ages, followed by decline. The Greeks wrote of an age when gods walked among humans. Hindu cosmology describes cycles of creation and destruction, yugas that rise and fall over immense spans of time. The Sumerians recorded kings who ruled for impossibly long periods, before a great flood reset the world. These are not scientific records, but they are consistent. Civilization rises. Civilization falls. Memory fades. The survivors rebuild, believing they are starting from nothing. But fragments remain, and sometimes those fragments resurface. Even today, we are discovering ancient sites that challenge everything we thought we knew. LiDAR scans reveal vast cities hidden beneath jungles. Satellite imagery exposes geometric patterns buried beneath deserts. Underwater archaeology uncovers structures that predate known sea level rise. The more we look, the more we find. And each discovery pushes the origin of advanced human capability further back. This forces a profound question. What defines an advanced civilization? Is it electricity? Is it computers? Or is it knowledge, astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and social organization? If the latter, then ancient civilizations may have been advanced in ways different from ours. They may have mastered stone instead of steel, sound instead of electricity, geometry instead of code. Their technologies may not resemble ours, but they were effective and vulnerable. Because advanced does not mean invincible. If a global catastrophe occurred, floods, earthquakes, rapid climate change, complex systems would collapse first. Power structures fail. Knowledge networks fracture. Specialists disappear. Survivors would retain fragments, not the whole.
and over generations, even fragments fade. This may explain why ancient civilizations revered the ancients, why they spoke of teachers who came from the sea, why they believed knowledge was inherited, not invented. It also explains something deeply unsettling. We are not unique. We are not exempt. Our own civilization relies on fragile systems, energy grids, global supply chains, digital memory. Remove a few pillars and knowledge evaporates. Books burn, servers fail, skills vanish. Stone lasts. Everything else is temporary. Perhaps that is why ancient builders chose stone, not because they were primitive, but because they understood permanence. They knew their world might not survive, so they wrote their story in granite and left it for us, not as proof, but as a warning. Specialists disappear. Survivors would retain fragments, not the whole, and over generations, even fragments fade. This may explain why ancient civilizations revered the ancients, why they spoke of teachers who came from the sea, why they believed knowledge was inherited, not invented. It also explains something deeply unsettling. We are not unique. We are not exempt. Our own civilization relies on fragile systems, energy grids, global supply chains, digital memory. Remove a few pillars, and knowledge evaporates. Books burn, servers fail, skills vanish, stone lasts. Everything else is temporary. Perhaps that is why ancient builders chose stone, not because they were primitive, but because they understood permanence. They knew their world might not survive, so they wrote their story in granite and left it for us, not as proof, but as a warning. If a lost advanced civilization existed before recorded history, then the ruins they left behind are not merely curiosities, they are messages. Warnings etched into stone by a culture that understood something we are only beginning to grasp, that intelligence does not guarantee survival. Across every ancient site we've explored, one theme quietly repeats itself: permanence. The builders of megalithic structures chose materials that endure: granite, basalt, limestone, not wood, not clay, not anything fragile. They invested enormous effort to build in ways that resisted time, erosion, and catastrophe. Why? Because they may have known their civilization would not last. If they experienced previous collapses or foresaw one approaching, then preserving knowledge became more important than comfort or convenience. Stone does not forget, but societies do. This realization reframes ancient monuments entirely. Perhaps pyramids were not tombs. Perhaps stone circles were not temples. Perhaps they were archives. Information encoded in geometry, alignment, proportion, and placement. Messages designed to survive when language would not, when writing would vanish, when culture would reset. Modern researchers have begun noticing strange consistencies, ratios that appear again and again, angles that reflect celestial cycles, measurement that relate to Earth's dimensions. It is as if the planet itself was used as a reference point, as if the builders were anchoring knowledge to the Earth, not to any single civilization. This implies a global awareness far older than recorded globalization, a civilization that understood Earth as a system: climate cycles, astronomical rhythms, geological forces, and possibly the inevitability of disaster. Ice core samples show abrupt climate events in the distant past: rapid warming, sudden cooling, massive floods. These were not slow changes, they were violent, and they would have been devastating to coastal civilizations. If an advanced society existed during the last ice age, its end would not have been gradual, it would have been catastrophic. Cities swallowed, farmland erased, populations scattered. In such a scenario, survival, not progress, becomes the priority. Knowledge condenses into myth. Technology becomes ritual, and memory becomes legend. This may explain why ancient cultures across the world revered sky gods or teachers, not gods in the supernatural sense, but survivors, carriers of fragmented knowledge, those who remembered how things once were. As generations passed, their stories transformed. What began as instruction became mythology. What began as science became sacred. And eventually the original meaning was lost, except in stone. This perspective also forces us to confront an uncomfortable parallel. Our civilization is technologically unparalleled, yet it is also fragile. We rely on systems we barely understand, infrastructure so complex that no single person comprehends it fully, and memories stored digitally, not physically. If catastrophe struck today, global flooding, electromagnetic disruption, climate collapse, how much of our knowledge would survive? Would future humans understand what we built? Or would they find fragments and wonder how we did it? Perhaps the ancient world faced the same dilemma. Perhaps they were not warning us with words, but with example. They showed us what remains after collapse, and what does not. This reframes history not as a story of constant ascent, but as a series of peaks and erasures. Civilizations rise, they reach brilliance, they overextend, and they fall. Each believing itself unique, each unaware it is following a pattern. If this is true, then the greatest danger is not ignorance, it is arrogance, the belief that this time is different. The builders of the past may have thought the same,
Which is why their ruins are not monuments to power, but to humility. They stand silently, reminding us that time always wins, that progress must be balanced with wisdom, and that survival depends not on technology, but on understanding the systems we live within. Perhaps that is the true legacy of the lost advanced civilization, not their tools, not their machines, but their lesson, that civilization is temporary, knowledge is fragile, and history is far deeper than we remember. When all the evidence is placed side by side, a pattern emerges that is impossible to ignore. Advanced construction without gradual development, astronomical knowledge without modern instruments, global similarities without known contact, and catastrophic gaps where continuity should exist. Individually, each anomaly can be dismissed. Together, they tell a story. A story not of fantasy, but of forgotten reality. Human civilization may be far older than we are taught, and it may have reached heights we no longer remember. The ruins scattered across the earth are not mistakes in the timeline. They are remnants of chapters torn from history. What remains today is not the full story, only what survived fire, flood, and forgetting. Stone temples without builders' names, machines without manuals, maps without makers. A civilization erased not by ignorance, but by time. And time is relentless. It does not care about knowledge. It does not preserve wisdom. It only preserves what is durable. This explains why the most important achievements of the past are silent. They do not explain themselves. They simply exist, waiting. Modern humanity stands at a crossroads eerily similar to the one ancient builders may have faced. We possess immense knowledge, yet little wisdom, unprecedented power, yet fragile systems, global reach, yet planetary vulnerability. We measure progress by speed and convenience. They measured it by permanence. Perhaps that is why their legacy still stands, and ours may not. If a lost advanced civilization existed before recorded history, then their greatest message may not be about technology at all. It may be about restraint, about balance with nature, about humility before forces greater than civilization itself. Floods will come, climate will shift,
Earth will change. It always has. The question is not whether civilization can rise. It clearly can. The question is whether it can endure. History, buried beneath oceans and jungles, suggests the answer is not guaranteed. We often ask, were ancient civilizations more advanced than we thought? But perhaps the more important question is this: were they wiser? And if they fell, what does that say about us? As we uncover more ruins, decode more alignments, and rediscover more lost knowledge, the past becomes less distant. It becomes a mirror, one that reflects not just where we came from, but where we may be going. The stones do not accuse us. They do not warn us directly. They simply remain, patient, unmoved. A reminder that civilization is not measured by how high it rises, but by how long it lasts. And somewhere beneath the layers of time, beneath the ruins of forgotten cities, lies a truth humanity has yet to fully accept. We are not the first. We will not be the last. And the story of human civilization is far older, deeper, and more fragile than we ever imagined. The past is not dead, it is buried, and it is waiting to be remembered. If the evidence you've seen today changed the way you think about human history, then this is only the beginning. Subscribe to Ages Past to continue uncovering the lost chapters of our civilization, the knowledge buried beneath oceans, hidden in stone, and forgotten by time. If this documentary made you question what we've been taught, press the like button. It helps this story reach others who are searching for the truth of our past. And tell us in the comments, do you believe an advanced civilization existed before recorded history? Or are these discoveries coincidences history can't yet explain? Because the past isn't gone. It's waiting to be remembered.